I remember buying United shirts with Cantona, Beckham.
Trying tricks out in PE, it was always Bergkamp 10.
Yeboah 21 and Zola 25.
You know, the classic number 9 like Shearer, Rooney number 10. It's part of their culture, it's part of their identity.
It's hard to imagine a time when shirts didn't have any names and numbers on.
The beauty of the Premier League is that they are creating era-defining names and numbers.
The names and numbers become part of the fabric of the competition, part of the fabric of the story. The Premier League is lucky enough to be one of the world's favourite forms of football, favourite forms of entertainment. Watched in 800 million homes in 188 countries. Clearly, as the Premier League began and then began to grow, you saw names appear on the shirt and names and numbers become associated forever.
It becomes very personal. It's not just their name, it's that number that is part of their identity. Alexander-Arnold, for example, his position on the pitch is a number 2, but 66 is grown with it. It's not something he wants to change.
You think about Stuart Pearce being number 3 at Forest, or Ian Wright, number 8.
My first football shirt was a West Ham shirt, and it was a number 8 shirt. When I went to Arsenal, there wasn't really a number for me, so Paul Davis was left out of the team, and he was number 8. And I got the number 8. I just wanted to keep it because it felt like it was luck for me.
For me, it was Shearer 9 and Sutton 16.
My dad's hero was Jackie Milburn, and he wore the number 9 shirt. It was always my dream to go to Newcastle and score goals at St James's Park and wear that number 9 shirt.
Names and numbers are iconic. They all have a backstory, what they mean to the player. And it's the same for the fan.
Whether that's the names and numbers of their favourite players, whether it's their name, their favourite number, whether it's a personal message, that brings them closer to the competition, hopefully closer to their favourite club, closer to their favourite player.
The brief for this project was to design a new player name and number set for the new Premier League season.
It's very rare that the name and number change, so to be part of that process is very exciting. We want to make sure that what we design and what we put on pitch maintains the fan in the stadium, the fan at home watching it on TV, at the heart of it. The start of the process is to look at what are our inspirations.
We kind of delve into the archives. We looked at archive footage, some of the references from the previous years of the Premier League font, from 1997 onwards. Obviously contrasting styles as well from other leagues and clubs, from books, magazines, the internet. And that's where the ideas will come from.
The Premier League outlined that they wanted this to be an evolution rather than a revolution. They wanted it to encapsulate some of their new branding ideas. They wanted to ensure that the authenticity was enhanced. They wanted this name and number to define an era.
The stages of design started from being quite out there with our designs and seeing how far we could push the needle.
The plan was to create that evolution without losing sight of the original font. We're looking at the little design nuances between the current font and where we want to take it. But Avery Dennison, we still like to push the boundaries.
We knew that an easily legible font was needed, so we were looking at how much open space in a font.
We needed to make sure the new font had bigger spaces, what we call counters, so it enabled the name or the number to be more legible from a greater distance. There are certain things we need to consider from a production point of view. The colour combinations, the size of letters, the width of different individual characters.
They also need to stand up to the rigours of the game. They need to move and stretch with the fabric as well.
The biggest problem we have are long player names. We always consider that a font should be condensed in its core form. And so we think about how clean and minimal the font should be.
One of the key call-outs from the Premier League was brand exposure, and the existing font could actually be increased in size, resulting in a larger Premier League logo as well.
No other Premier League font had used a texture in any way, and so we played around with the Premier League pattern, the zigzag pattern that kind of sat well with the particular character shapes.
As part of the development process, we debated those, we photographed them, we were able to tweak the designs, and with our partners at the Premier League, we narrowed that down to 2 different concepts. Our names and numbers have to perform in every type of criteria. That's on the pitch, that's on your television screen.
Clarity and legibility is absolutely fundamental for the Premier League, for the competition, for viewers watching at home, but particularly to the commentators and, of course, the fans in the stadium.
We have to validate the font, compare and contrast both designs in a real-life scenario.
First impressions, the numbers themselves are certainly impressive. Much bigger.
We've got professional commentators in the gantries of the stadium, and they have their critical eye on the challenges of being able to recognise a player from distance.
2 different styles of numbers against each other. They are all very clear, aren't they?
We tested the new alphabet with the shortest names like Son and the longest names with Alexander-Arnold. We actually deliberately put different player names with the wrong number just to make sure that the commentator could actually distinguish the names as well.
That in-stadium testing allowed us to look at the product on camera and from a fan's view.
The curvature in the font, I prefer the one that's not quite as rounded, so the font that is on the white shirt.
We simulate what it would be like in daylight, under the floodlights.
And then we test the fonts on different coloured kits as well.
I think all we want really is a contrast, isn't it? A definite contrast.
It allowed us to see how that performed against the existing name and number.
Straight away, the numbers on the red look bigger. Look, 16 against 16.
Yeah, I do think they're better than they are at the moment. That extra 10% makes a world of difference. Well, the 28 had it on the far side. Still, from here, no element of doubt as to what number that is.
The feedback we got was that by making the font bigger, making the counters and the open spaces bigger, it was more legible.
The truth, guys, is we are judged by our identification.
You've got to make a split-second call. That's why the legibility of the numbers on the back of the shirt is absolutely crucial as far as we're concerned.
From the fans' perspective, going to matches and sitting in the back of the stand, for the match officials, it helps everybody.
In the end, we basically did a synthesis of the 2 fonts. A traditional lettering style, a much bolder font with this dynamic tonal pattern.
Gaupne is a small village in the western part of Norway, around 5,000 people.
Coming down the fjord, looking up at the hills, learning the stories. It's almost unbelievable that at the end of that journey, you find yourself at Avery Dennison's factory in the middle of this extraordinary valley.
Having that as your surrounding also inspires you to take brave decisions. Through history, we have had to be innovative and creative to find solutions. The production in Norway will be around 4 million pieces. Numbers, letters, sleeve badges, champions badges. We have the latest technology in terms of digital printing, laser cutting, and screen making. Altogether, we will produce 20 to 30 million pieces. Sustainability is something we take really seriously and have embedded into all our processes in Avery Dennison. Our location allows us to harvest renewable energy from nature. All the electricity is produced hundreds of meters away from the site by a giant glacier. After the energy is produced, we use the same river, which still is very, very cold, to then harness the temperature difference in air and water. And by doing that, we can cool down the building without using air conditioning units.
Wherever there is a jersey in the world, we need to be able to provide a name and number. If you think about all of the different colours of the jerseys that the clubs have, how everybody washes and wears their garment in a different way, we have to create a product that not only sticks, but is also durable. So it needs to have stretch, it needs to retain its colour. The science that goes into manufacturing these names and numbers is vitally important.
We produce our transfers with a digital technology, which enables us to do it more sustainably. The inks and the colors are therefore printed in a thin and digital layer. We're able to give a high-tech computer all the inputs, and it will go through millions of iterations to allow for the best utilization of the sheet. The next step will be the hybrid between digital and traditional silk screen printing with frames layer by layer. This will be adhesive, it will be inks, it will be different effects that we add to the transfer. So we will run the whole alphabet in individual steps, and then we do name blocks. For a shop or a kit man, it is much easier to apply a full name of a player, but also it allows you to be flexible if you have a personal name of a fan or something like that. When the production process is finished, the ready sheets are then inspected with human eye. We then cut it with a laser that can cut with millimeter precision. By being a leader in terms of the material science that goes into the production process, we can continue pioneering sustainable production in the future.
The Premier League has only changed its names and numbers 3 times in the history of the competition. It's really important to us that we continue to evolve and improve to make the competition, the clubs, the players, as appealing as they can be to the fans watching all over the world. And the names and numbers are a really critical part of that.
Names and numbers play an incredibly important role in the association between the player and the club and the player and the fan. Bringing fans closer to the game is a really important direction for both Avery Dennison and for the Premier League. All Premier League names and numbers are digitally connected. You can scan the name and number to authenticate the name and number, but also to access digital content.
Once the fans see the new design, they will see it's bolder, more dynamic, but also with the Premier League tonal pattern, more modern.
Having your legend or your hero on the back of your shirt is creating a higher meaning maybe of the shirt.
They create memories that are held by fans for generations.